Welcome to Unleashing Happiness with Cecilia Hendricks, the podcast where I teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and change your life. Welcome back and happy Friday. I did want to take a moment really quick at the beginning to announce that starting next week, I'm going to change the day from Friday that I'm pushing out the weekly podcast to Wednesdays. So every Monday, I will have the regular kind of bonus episodes that I'm doing. We still have quite a few weeks of those to go through. But then the podcast that I'm doing today and that I've been releasing on Friday, I'm going to move to Wednesday. If you're anything like me, I find that I tend to listen to my podcasts on the weekdays when I'm on my way to work or returning from work. And so I thought Wednesdays might just work a little bit better for folks. Hopefully everybody else disagrees. Not like you can't listen to it on Friday, but I'm going to start releasing them on Wednesday. For this week's episode, I have 3 topics that I want to go over. One is your comfort zones and pushing past those. If you follow me on YouTube, I actually did a video recently about this where Maggie had posted about comfort zones and feeling natural and how you have to push past those. And I want to talk a little bit about that here. Although that video, it's kind of funny, that video I think reached 50 people. I don't know why YouTube didn't like that one, but they apparently did not because it's gone nowhere. And then the other part is self-experiments. That has been the biggest key, I think, to some of my success and understanding is just taking something that sounds interesting to me and using myself to test it and experiment with it and see what works and what doesn't work. And then the other one is a huge topic, especially in any kind of LOA community, which is taking action versus doing nothing and what that really means and how it ties into your habits and identity and how you can actually use the actions that you want to take or the ones that you feel compelled to take to reflect back to you and get an understanding of where you're sitting within your state, what your identity is, how you're actually feeling, because those actions are going to be mirrors of what state you're in. And I also wanted to give a little shout out to my family for last weekend. It was my birthday last weekend. And I am definitely one of those people that even now in my 40s, I absolutely love my birthday. I love spending time with people to do things for my birthday. And my family last weekend made my birthday absolutely amazing. I probably had one of my best birthdays on record. And when I look back on it, I think part of it is because I've been so focused on these small joys that I was really able to recognize the joys that I had that day. And it was nothing, it was maybe nothing that as somebody looking out would be well, I don't quite see what was so special, but it's because if you're not within the state that I'm in and really enjoying this time with family, that's one of my best things. I love spending time with my family. And that goes from my immediate family at home with my kiddos to my extended family, like my siblings and my parents. My kids had a ton of sporting events last weekend. I ended up at 7 different sporting events from Friday through Sunday. It was just insane. There was so many things going on, and trying to do birthday celebrations within that was crazy. And this even extends past my family to my hockey family. My kids play ice hockey. If anybody out there has an ice hockey family, you know that they are the most amazing group of people you could probably ever meet. I have met some of the greatest people through ice hockey, and I just am so thankful for it because they've become couples friends of ours, and we do quite a bit with them. And they really made my birthday special too. And it was just such a nice day. But it was such a great reminder for me too, that the more that you start to focus on the joys of your life, when these seemingly smaller things happen, you feel so much more gratitude. My vibration is higher. I just feel better. And there was a couple things over the weekend that, were a little bit of a downer and maybe kind of upset me, but they didn't affect me as much as maybe they would have a few years ago, just because my vibration is different. My state is different. I'm able to recognize this happiness and this joy, and it's not forced. And I know I go back to this quite a lot, but it's not a forced action. And that's part of what I wanted to talk about today when we're talking about your comfort zone. Whatever state you're in now, that is what feels comfortable to you. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's still somewhat comfortable to you because it's known. It may be uncomfortable to you because you don't like it, but it is more comfortable than changing, at least at this point. And if it wasn't, and if you're saying, no, that's not true, then you would have already changed. But if you are looking to become a different person, those actions that you need to take, no matter what area it's in, whether it's a love life, whether it's your personal health, whether it's your personal fitness, whether it's your relationship with others, your career, whatever it is, if it was more comfortable for you to be in a different state and identity, that's the one that you would be in right now. But you're staying where you are because you have this desire. You definitely want something to change. But taking those steps to change it can be quite difficult. And it is because even whether you don't recognize it or not, there's a comfort level to staying where you are. There sometimes is a comfort in being miserable. And I know that I'm sure a lot of people are rolling their eyes at me like I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm actually speaking from experience and from others that I've spoken to, whether in the Reddit community or through my email. But there is a time that you say like, no, this is just how my life goes. This is just what happens to me. Everything is miserable for me. I'm designed to be unhappy. I'm designed to look at everything negative. And you are correct. You are designed currently for that. You are designed to look at things that way. You are designed to be focused on the things that are not going right. And it's a difficult message to hear. I know that I had it as well, where I was like, well, no, this external factor and this external factor are making me feel this way. And that's not true. Those external factors actually do not affect me. And that's what I realized this past birthday weekend, that even though there was some external factors that were driving me crazy and I roll my eyes at and I may be frustrated and upset by, because my internal state is the one that it is now, my focus was on all of the great things that were happening. And not just because it was my birthday, but that's like a great example to use. I was able to continue to focus naturally. I did not have to force this, a natural focus on the great things that were happening for me for my birthday, and from the people that I really care and the people that showed me how important I am to them. And that was just so special. You know, like my kids gave me some really wonderful gifts. They were very sweet and kind, and I just adore them. And my son, he's really funny. He's my youngest, and he is definitely my sassiest. And he's just so funny, and he's got like the most dry sense of humor. He is very, very much so his father's son with his like dry sense of humor and very sarcastic. But he wrote the sweetest message in my card. And anyone that's like in my family who knows about my son, he usually just signs his name in this really funny way to a card. And so there's no message that's in there. And he just wrote this like really sweet message, and it touched my heart. And then he also posted like a happy birthday message on his story. So, you know, all of his friends are able to see that, you know, he thinks I'm an amazing mom, and it was my birthday, and it was just very touching. You know, my other son also went out of his way as soon as he saw me in the morning to tell me happy birthday and check in on how I was doing. My brother and my sister-in-law got me this podcast planner book. So I have talked on here about how I write in notebooks. I have multiple notebooks with ideas for podcasts and listing out the stuff that I want to talk about, noting what books I need to, you know, quote or talk about while I'm in the podcast. And so they got me this podcast planner book, and it was these little touches that I just really appreciated, because it's like, oh yes, I definitely feel seen. And even though those are the ones that I'm calling out, it was across the board, right? Like people bringing me gifts and people looking at my Amazon wish list, to kind of secretly know what it is that I want, and just thinking of me in a way that was really sweet and kind, or giving me a card that they knew would make me laugh and would like really bring me joy. And it was just such an amazing day. And the more that you're able to start to focus daily on the great things that happen to you, the more that you notice these really great things. I could have spent my day kind of dwelling in some frustration that was happening in other areas of my life, but I just wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't open to doing that. And again, when you start to shift, it becomes a natural unwillingness to do that. You naturally are not focused on those things that aren't going, quote unquote, your way, because you're too focused on the rest. So I share that and I highlight that just to show you that it is possible to naturally move into this. And at first, it's not going to feel natural. You are in a comfort zone of your current identity. And there is a version of you that is living the identity that you want. That version of you does exist. You are able to be that and to have those certain things and to live the desired outcome life that you're seeking. But I think the struggle is, okay, well, how do I get from comfort zone A into what I actually want? How do I push past that comfort zone? And some people, and for some things, you may be able to do it very quickly. If you're a follower of Neville Goddard, he says nothing's going to happen for you until you believe that you are that person, until it becomes natural for you. If you look at a lot of our kind of motivational gurus of today, they say the same thing. You have to start to become the person that you want to be. You have to step into that identity. And if you look at most people's success stories, even if there's frustration in their life, it's not to say that they never felt frustrated. They never felt like nothing was going their way, because we're human. We're going to have those feelings. They did work at becoming that person. It became natural over time. One of my favorite lectures from Neville Goddard is called Infinite States. And I'm going to read a couple parts out of that. And this one is how he talks about wearing a new suit. He says, I urge you to use your own wonderful creative power and deliberately move into the state of your choice. Make it now by occupying the state long enough so that it feels natural. Haven't you had a suit of clothes that felt so new you were conscious of them every moment? I know when I bought my first suit, I walked down Fifth Avenue thinking everyone I passed knew my suit was new. People passing paid no attention to me, but I was so aware, so conscious of my new suit. That's exactly what happens when you move into a new state. If the state of affluence is new, you think everyone knows it. But no one knows or cares whether you are rich or poor. So walk in the state until it becomes natural. The moment the feeling is natural, wealth is yours. So he uses a suit for his example, but it can really be anything. If you are used to being a certain body type and certain body weight, and maybe do not view yourself as overly attractive, part of that comfort level that you are at right now would be that you're not receiving attention, right? That could be kind of part of that state. If you don't feel attractive, you feel like other people don't find you attractive, and then therefore that's mirrored back to you. But then if you start to work at, okay, what would be the habits of somebody who was very attractive? How would they walk into a room? How would they walk down the street? How would they present themselves? And this is different for each person. This isn't saying you have to be X weight, or that you have to have X eye color, or that your hair has to be so long, or that you have to dress a certain way. It truly is within your perception of what you think would equal attractive for you. And try to do this in a way that you're not just beating yourself up, right? But be really considerate. Okay, if I felt I was attractive and I got attention as someone who was attractive, what would that look like? how would their state be? If I see someone that I think is remarkably beautiful, how are they carrying themselves? How are they walking down the street? What are they doing? And you can start to embody those different habits and those different behaviors until it becomes more natural for you. And part of what you learn in this process is how to stop waiting on external reactions for you to feel a certain way. If I feel beautiful in the morning, I get ready and my hair looks nice and I'm dressed nice and I walk out the door and I just feel good, I can pass 10 people on the street, and if none of them stop me to say, dang, you look really good today, I still feel good. I didn't wait for them to tell me for me to feel good. The feeling good started first. And when you then start to shift your state and you step into this new identity, what is comfortable now also changes. It just shifts. If I go out now and I think that I look great and I run into somebody who's like, I hate your shoes, that does not affect me. Okay, this external thing is not my problem. That is on them. I don't really care. And I know that I look good, so I'm going to continue on with my day. And you will find this with anything. There's certain parts of you now that are natural to your identity that no one would be able to crack. You wouldn't believe them. Like, I'm a mother of 3. If somebody came up to me and was like, you don't know what you're talking about because you aren't a mom, I would ignore them. I would think they were just crazy. Like, clearly they know nothing about me, because at the core of my identity, I'm a mother. No one's going to be able to tell me I'm not a mom. And so your level of comfort can change into a new identity. It may feel really weird to you to consider yourself being something that you're not now, right? And I don't know, hopefully I'm making sense with this, but if you right now are struggling with money, it may feel very unnatural to consider what it would be like if you had money and you could easily pay all of your bills. And so when it's a struggle to get there, you can break it down into smaller parts. That's why I always talk about having these daily joys. Start to focus on your wins. Start to do things that you enjoy. Start to consider the habits that would be of your ideal self. How would that person talk to themselves? If you had plenty of money to pay your bills and then even take an amazing cruise or go out to a fancy dinner, how would you talk to yourself? What would be the way that you would conduct yourself on a day-to-day basis? And I'm not telling anybody to go out and make, irresponsible financial decisions based on where you are currently, because part of this too is to take the correct action that is involved. And when you can break this down into small bits of correct action, you're going to start to find yourself becoming more aligned with this person. And let me explain this a little bit more. If I don't have finances, like I just don't have money and I'm not doing well, and I'm trying to fake my way into believing that I'm doing well, an action that I may have would be, well, I really want this jacket. I know I don't have the money for it, but I'm going to say F it. And I'm just going to put it on my credit card and I'm just going to buy it because I'm living my wealthiest life. That's irresponsible. You are actually creating a action, or you are forcing an action that's not aligned to the state that you're actually currently in. It's not aligned to the identity that you currently have. If you were someone who had the finances, that thought would not come across your mind. You wouldn't have this action of, well, I'm just going to do it anyways, even though I can't afford it. So when you start to look at your behaviors throughout the day and your actions and the things that you're doing and that you're stepping into, you have to remember that your initial compelled reaction, the one that kind of just knee-jerk reaction comes up in your mind, is reflective of your current state. It's actually a great way to identify where you currently are and where you're dwelling. And the more that you start to change who you kind of are, the way that you think and the state that you're in and the person that you're being, you'll start to notice, especially when you're doing this consciously, that you're like, holy cow, this did change. So I can identify now areas of my life that I'm like, oh my gosh, my behavior is different for that. My way of thinking is different for that. What bothers me is different for that. A relationship is a really great example, whether in a relationship of a friend, a lover, someone that you work with, whatever it is. If your reaction to, let's say, them not responding to you is anger and frustration, well, that's a reflection of your state. If you notice that you are blocked on their socials, but you want to go try to stalk them, so you set up a new account so that you can go look at their Instagram, that's a reflection of your state and what you truly believe about that relationship. If I'm confident in myself and I'm confident in that relationship, I'm not doing those things. Like, there's no way that I would do that. If my best friend suddenly blocked me on, let's say, my text messages weren't going through to her and I'm trying to text her and they're not going through, I would automatically think something must be wrong. Oh my gosh, not, oh, she blocked me. I got to find a different way to contact her because she hates me. And that's reflective of that state that I am in. And so you can use this to kind of litmus test like where you are and where you're actually dwelling. And it's very, very important to actually be honest with yourself. And that was something that when I was on Reddit that I would try to share with people and I got the most resistance about. Either I didn't know what I was talking about or they are being honest with themselves. But I can tell you, like with my best friend or my spouse or anybody that I have this like really great relationship with, I am not going to online forums to ask people how I can make sure that they talk to me. How can I get them to text me back? That's not part of the state that I'm in. That's not where I'm dwelling. That's not the issues that I'm having. And the whole reason for that is because I know that relationship doesn't need my attention like that. I am so confident in that relationship, in the way that I am looked at, in the way that I am treated. I don't need to do that. And it's not to say that there's not relationships in my life that I would like to improve, but there's a difference between improving them, focusing on them, nurturing them, giving people empathy and understanding, and this kind of like desperation to have somebody within your life. And this goes for money. It goes for your health. You can put anything into this bucket and start to identify it. And I know it's like, you may get this information from everybody. I'm trying to make it a little bit more simple, and a little bit more pragmatic and practical in the way that you can look at it. So it's a bit more digestible. And then you can start to identify, okay, well, if I'm honest with this, what are the things that I can do to actually change that? And then this is where self-experiments come in. So one of my favorite things to do is to experiment on myself. I will either decide to do something for 30 days, maybe for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. And it can be anything that you want to do. I know Maggie, I'll link to these YouTube videos of hers that I'm talking about below, but I know Maggie talked about doing a self-experiment where she was not focusing on anything that was further than 24 hours into her future. So she was working on focusing on the present. And she did this experiment where she was like, if this is not affecting me within the next 24 hours, I'm dropping it. I'm not focusing on it. And I'm going to return to something that will affect me personally within the next 24 hours. So you can do an experiment like that. Another really good one is the 7-day mental diet. I'll link to that PDF down below. 7-day mental diet essentially says, you're going to choose kind of an outcome and you're not going to dwell on any kind of negative feelings. Something important to have kind of come up with this 7-day mental diet is that you, one, don't tell anybody that you're doing it. That way you don't kind of get any background noise or anybody giving their opinions. I don't always agree with that. I've got a group of people that I can talk to about this stuff and don't really kind of rain on my parade. Maggie and Tim are some. My daughter Brianna is another. So I do talk to people when I'm doing this kind of stuff and kind of give them like updates and like, holy cow, this happened and this happened, or dang, I really faltered today, whatever it is. But part of the 7-day mental diet is you're not supposed to tell anybody. And really that's just for, especially when you get started, so that you don't get this like background noise that may sway you from doing it or people telling you you're being ridiculous. And the other thing is, it's again, not toxic positivity. So The 7-day mental diet is not saying that you can never think anything negative, right? Like thoughts are going to come up. That's just the way we are as humans. Like I can literally be walking down the street and like randomly have a thought of like, what would happen if my car crashed into a tree? Like, and I don't know why I would have that thought while I was walking, but that's where I went. So, and those thoughts are going to come up. But the 7-day mental diet says you're not going to dwell there. So if you choose an outcome, then you are learning how to, each time your mind goes somewhere else, bring it back instead to that desired outcome. It's very aligned with the Neville Goddard teachings, and being focused on your mood and making sure that you're not dwelling somewhere that's not aligned to your desired outcome. The 7-day mental diet is extremely difficult. I don't think I've ever actually finished one. I've tried them multiple times. I actually plan to kick off another one here soon. But I have never actually finished. I don't know why I'm the type of person that when I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, it's almost like my mind is like, I'm going to throw everything at you, make it as horrible as possible, and let's see if you can get through that. And I realize I do this to myself. I don't know why, but that's the cycle I'm in. But the 7-day mental diet is a really great self-experiment. Another one is if there's an affirmation that you hear that you're like, you know what, I feel kind of good about that. Add that to your day and do it for a week and see how you feel. Add, kind of some self-love acts, etc. But if you take these small things and you pick like one thing, like a 7-day mental diet, not focusing on anything that's 24 hours in the future, doing a specific affirmation, focusing on revision, whatever kind of deal that it is, and do it for, 7 to 14 days, even up to 30. And say, okay, here's my focus. This is what I'm going to do. And put your focus on that. And you can start to learn what works really well for you and what doesn't. So running these self-experiments is great. And I pull out my journal. I write it out. I have some things that I was like, that really did not work very well for me. The majority of the time, affirmations is not something that works great for me, although I've been using them a little bit more. I'll talk about that in the future, but just in a different way than maybe I saw being shared on like YouTube or the Reddit community, to use positive affirmations. But not working for me does not mean that it won't work for somebody else. You got to figure out what works for you. So the things that even I share, like, okay, Cecilia's saying to add these daily joys to your day. Well, do it for 2 weeks and see how you feel. Have you noticed a positive shift in your overall mental well-being, the things that you're receiving in life, kind of just overall the way things are going? If so, fantastic. Keep up with it. If not, it's not something for you. It's not working. Or you're being honest with yourself and you're saying, well, the reason it's not working is because I'm actually not doing it, or I'm not doing it in the way that it's outlined, or I'm not paying attention, or whatever else it is. But do these self-experiments with yourself. It's a really great way to test things that you learn and stick with them. So if you do something that you kind of hear about online for like, let's say 2 days, and then you drop it and you're like, this is stupid, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, okay, that's not going to work for you. And then you're going to continue in this cycle of, well, nothing ever works. I've tried to do this for years and I always end up in the same spot. This doesn't, this is crap and everybody's teaching me wrong. Well, you really got to be honest with yourself that you probably just have not taken the time to either get it to work or to figure out what works for you. I have shared, I can't really visualize. So I use hearing and smell more than I use anything with like visuals because I just don't really see anything. But if I had only stuck with trying to visualize an outcome that I wanted to have happen, it probably was not going to work well for me. I've worked on my visualization and I'm able to see somewhat now, but it's kind of hard to explain. I now pair it with like sound and definitely a feeling, and I'm able to kind of connect those a little bit better and it works better for me and I feel better. But if I had only stuck with trying to do things with like visualizing, I would have ended up really frustrated because that wouldn't have worked for me. And I would have been one of those people to say like, this doesn't work and it's stupid. And I know that it's frustrating if it's not working for you. I know that it's frustrating if you have a desire and you're struggling to figure out how to get to that desire, especially if you're living a life that you're really unhappy in. But the more that you focus on that unhappiness and feeling frustrated and upset and unlucky and nothing's working for you, well, the more that whole cycle just continues. I've definitely shared quite a bit today. I hope that you found it helpful. Again, remember that it's going to take a while to step into an identity or a new state that feels natural to you, but you can work towards that, right? Like you can take the steps to make it feel more natural for you. And a lot of that is pushing past your own comfort zone. You're going to probably hit a point that it feels very uncomfortable, and you have to be willing to go past that. Deal with looking at some self-experiments. What are things that you can try for a week or 2 weeks or, even up to 30 days to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you? Put your focus on kind of one thing and really go after that and be clear about what it is that you want and the outcome that you want to see. And then from there, remember that your compelled action is reflective of your state. And you can really use this to your own advantage, and you should use it to your own advantage. Take the ways that you want to behave or take the things that you want to do and realize what those are showing you. I have a relationship in my life that I can definitely see shifts in the actions that I want to take as I've kind of refocused on myself, started to pay more attention to the things that I was doing and put less attention on these external kind of stuff that's happening. I'm not going to control the whole world that's around me. Not in the way that a lot of people think that they can, or that they can get to the level they can do it. That's not going to happen. Instead, I control my reactions to things. I control the way that I interact with myself. And the more that I can bring that focus back to me, how I feel, the things that I'm looking at and what I'm doing, the better. So have a wonderful week. Remember, next week I'll have my bonus episode on Monday, and then I'll have my regular weekly episode like today on Wednesday. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we will talk soon. Thank you so much for joining today. If you found the episode useful, please share it with your network or leave me a rating or review. It helps me get my message to more people, and I would greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to learn more about me, you can visit my website. It's ceciliahendricks.com.